Tonight on News 5 Live, a bold attempt is made on the life of a well-known figure in the San Andres village. A new statutory instrument is set to take effect this weekend. We'll tell you what new measures fall under that piece of legislation. A new intake of young recruits for the Belize Police Department is set for January 2021 amid COVID challenges. And Channel 7 ditches Ned Vasquez. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast. Welcome to News 5 Live for Thursday, December 17th. I am Marlene Cuellar. We begin tonight's newscast with a brazen shooting incident in the north during which the victim fortunately escaped grave injury and is now hospitalized. In San Andres village in the Corozal district, an attempt was made on the life of Benigno Loria, a well-known figure in the area. He was at his residence when he was struck multiple times by a gunman who took aim at him. Police have since launched an investigation to determine the motive for the crime. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports.
Just after news time on Wednesday evening, shots rang out in San Andres village in Corozal district. Residents say that the echoes of about 8 to 10 shots reverberated in the village as a brazen attack was made on the life of 27-year-old Benigno Loria. Loria was standing inside his garage at his residence in the village when a gunman ran into the yard and opened fire on him. Several bullets made their mark on Loria despite attempts to flee from his attacker. Shortly after the barrage of shots was fired, police arrived on the scene. By then, Loria had already been transported to the Corozal Community Hospital for treatment. He was later rushed to Belize City, where tonight he remains in a stable condition at the Carl Hushner Memorial Hospital. While an investigation is underway to determine who the gunman was and the motive behind the attempted murder, Loria is no stranger to the law. In fact, back in 2014, he was one of 4 persons charged in connection with a daring robbery on the parking lot of the Fábrica de Mayoreo inside the Corozal Free Zone. During the time, 2 men escaped with 1.25 million pesos, which comes out to approximately 208,000 Belize dollars. Then, 21 years old, Loria was charged with the crime of conspiracy to commit robbery.
2 persons have been charged for conspiracy to robbery. We are proceeding into our identification parade shortly, and we're hoping to charge 2 others for the robbery.
Okay. These 2 persons, have they been taken to court as yet?
Yes, those have been taken to court. The one for the conspiracy to robbery. Those. And the others, we have 2 more in our custody, really, pending charges.
Sir, could you tell us about the investigation, without, of course, trying the case? Could you tell us about the investigation, how it led to the detention of these persons?
I wouldn't want to disclose very much as to the manner as to what led to that, Okay. The reality is that our investigation connects to that.
Okay. All right. These persons are all from Corozal?
Yes.
All right then, sir. Do you know when these persons are expected to be charged for robbery?
Shortly.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The government of Belize is expected to announce new quarantine regulations on Friday, which will become effective on Saturday. As you will recall, the most recent statutory instrument expires this Friday. But going into the Christmas holidays with a large number of COVID-19 cases daily has prompted lawmakers to institute additional measures. This morning, Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa appeared on Open Your Eyes, where he shared that the public can expect some changes in the law coming into force. Some of those changes are centered on the fines for violations of the law. For example, failure to comply with face mask will result in a $500 fine, and as we had shared earlier this week, the police will no longer be doing those mass arrests of persons who breach the regulations. The violations will be ticketed going forward. Here's more from Minister Karim Musa.
What I can tell you off the bat, because they are still refining some of these regulations for the press conference tomorrow, and the intent is to, in fact, make it come into effect on Saturday, the 20th of December. But what I can tell you off the bat, one of the very first discussions that myself, along with the Minister of Health, Minister Shabat, had was regarding the police department and police officers having so much contact with members of the public. And at the end of the day, what we are seeing from the magistracy is that individuals found guilty under these quarantine regulations are being fined somewhere in the vicinity of $500, max $1,500. So nobody is being fined this $5,000 maximum. And so what we have done is to devise a way forward that limits the amount of contact and the amount of time that police officers have to deal with these offenders. So it will now be a ticketable offense. You have the option to pay your fine. The fine will be $500. So there is a reduction in the fine. We fully understand the tough economic times, but at the same time, we can't put it too low. We can't put it at $100 or $150 because then everybody will be taking off their mask and everybody will be not observing social distancing in public. And so that is the way forward. And if you do not pay your fine, then you are going to be given a court date in which you can attend the court in order to dispute the allegations that have been made and the charges that have been made against you. So it does require a radical shift in the way we've been doing things. I think we've been doing it in a very irresponsible manner, the way that we have everybody piling up at the police stations, being detained, and then having to go to court.
When that new statutory instrument comes into effect, it will also clamp down on the sale of alcohol. According to Minister Karim Musa, the public will no longer be able to purchase alcohol after 6 p.m. Here's how he explains it.
That is one of the regulations that was discussed and that we will be implementing at 6 p.m. We are going to be regulating. It's going to be a cutoff point for the purchasing of alcohol across the country. So that is something very important. Like you said, it's not that necessarily people have to go to bars to drink, but what you find is that people are now gathering in parks. They're now gathering along the seaside to drink. That sort of thing, drink alcohol. And so it is a huge problem. We have identified that problem and we will be cracking down on it. Like I said, it's going to be regulated at 6 p.m. No alcohol will be served after 6 p.m. So that is going to be one of the regulations tomorrow.
As we head into the holidays and new measures are put in place, talk of another lockdown has been swirling in the public. As we told you earlier this week, one government CEO is calling for a lockdown to contain the COVID-19 cases. Today, Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa was asked about his stance on a lockdown.
Definitely, we need to consider a lockdown, and Cabinet on Tuesday rightly put that on the table, and we had hours of discussion on the different options. Because, as you know, we are having the highest number of COVID cases all across the country. And so we have to devise a plan, devise a way forward in order for us to not just protect the lives of our loved ones, but to also take into consideration other factors, including our economy. As you know, right now, it's Christmas time, and everywhere you go, there is still this hustle and bustle. And to be quite frank, there is not much personal responsibility that you can observe out there. And so many times it is that the police has to take matters into their own hands. And so what you find right now is that a lot of people are being detained under the current quarantine laws. But what that brings is also problems, because that by itself can be a super spreader, to be detaining hundreds of people a day, putting police officers directly in contact with possible COVID positive individuals.
Late this evening, the Office of the Prime Minister announced the appointment of Dr. Gilroy Middleton as the new Chief Executive Officer in the Ministry of Immigration. The release says that Dr. Middleton has work experience in the public and private sector and is currently the Dean of the Faculty of Management and Social Science at the University of Belize. The new CEO will join Minister Eamon Courtney of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and Immigration, and Minister of State Ramon Cervantes. Coming up, Tropical Vision Channel 7 changes leadership and severs ties with Ned Vasquez.
'Twas the weeks before Christmas, and all through the store, all the family was preparing.
World Health Organization, European Union, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Former BTL Chairman Nestor Vasquez has also parted ways with his family business, Tropical Vision Limited, Channel 7, after 39 years of ownership. The move comes in the wake of a scandal at Belize Telemedia Limited, where Vasquez racked up a bill of almost $1 million in personal expenses on the company's corporate credit card. In a release issued by the company earlier today, it stated, quote, Tropical Vision Channel 7 is making a strategic pivot with a change in leadership and parting of ways with its founder and former owner, Mr. Nestor A. Vasquez. Channel 7 started operating in 1981 as the first broadcast television station in Belize and evolved over the past 4 decades as a family-owned enterprise. We thank Nestor Vasquez for his pioneering work and dedication to the station throughout the years. A new ownership group, led by Jules Vasquez, who is now the managing director, has acquired Nestor Vasquez's holdings in Tropical Vision Limited, Channel 7. As part of finalizing the change of ownership, Tropical Vision has also settled all outstanding matters with BTL, including the cancellation of an advertising contract executed by Nestor Vasquez. The outstanding balance on the contract has now been paid in full by Tropical Vision, unquote. Vasquez has been succeeded by Mark Lizarraga as the new chairman of BTL. A cohort of at least 225 new police constables is expected to pass out of the Police Training Academy in June 2021 upon completion of a 6-month course. Their addition to the Belize Police Department is part of the People's United Party's mandate, in which it is expected that an additional 2,000 officers will join the department over the course of the next 5 years. News 5's Isani Caetano reports.
As COVID-19 continues to frustrate the efforts of the Belize Police Department in fighting crime and violence, approval has been given at the cabinet level for the recruitment of an additional 225 new constables. As part of its written declaration of principles, policies and objectives, the People's United Party pledged to strengthen the number of men and women in law enforcement. Of the 2,000 extra boots on the ground promised in that manifesto, over the course of the next 5 years, Intake 95 is a step towards realizing that goal.
There is a need for more police officers. We have had meetings with the Compol. We have done our assessments, especially now with COVID. I can tell you that we have currently 109 officers that are positive and 115 that are awaiting their test results. And so we are understaffed, especially now in COVID. But even moving forward, Jules, it is not like COVID will be with us forever. Our financial state will not be in the mud forever. We will bounce back as a country. It will take some time, but I foresee that whenever it is we do rebound and we do bounce back, that getting this pledge fulfilled is something that I am very serious about, increasing the ranks. And we mentioned it on the last occasion of doing it incrementally.
The need to grow the numbers of the department goes beyond the constraints of the pandemic. In fact, cumulative growth also ensures that the strategy is achieved in a practical and cost-efficient manner.
In terms of the strategy moving forward, as you know, part of our manifesto plan, we are now the government for all, not just a political party. Part of our manifesto is to increase the rank of the police department. It might not be overnight, but certainly in the coming years, we want to take it to 3,000 as an initial step, and thereafter to 4,000.
Intake 95 commences in January 2021. There is no certainty whether those recruits will be part of the Reformed Police Training Academy under the tutelage of Dr. Priscilla Brown. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams, nonetheless, distinguishes the role of law enforcement officers.
As police officers, we are a special breed of people. The work that we do, many would not want to do it for not even a minute. Despite the danger to ourselves, our families, and our friends, we are out there on a daily basis doing our utmost best.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Cayetano.
Siblings Brandon and Hubert Baptist and 2 other Belize City residents were released from police custody earlier today after being detained by police on Wednesday while they were at home on Police Street. The men told News 5 this evening that they were inside their yard when a team of officers from the Gang Suppression Unit descended on their property and rounded them up. Incidentally, December 16th was also the birthday of their deceased brother, Aaron Baptist, who had been killed last year in Boroboom Village. According to the brothers, they were told that police intelligence suggested that they were planning a retaliatory shooting that community, and so they were taken into custody to prevent a reprisal. But they are also alleging constant harassment from the police department. Here's what the livid Baptist brothers shared with us this evening.
I come out of jail with a mindset to change my life and thing, right? But for the idea, the police did not help me, brother. They help bring me down more because they come and they harass and they harass and they harass and they harass for nada. You get the sense? They tell we one thing, no problem no for there back there, no problem happening back there. You understand me? And they still the call about we tell that. You get the sense? Every time when they call, that for something else. When they call with a station, we don't know where we call with a station for. Lock we down for nada. You understand me? When the bypass social distance, all kind of thing. And still carry that pesos for nothing amongst a lot of people. We don't know who got disease. We don't know who's sick up in that spot there. And by the end of the day, they don't got no charge to we. They just send we back out. Just release we after that. Remember we tell that, brother, the whole we and the whole we panada. And then for the release we panada. You get the sense? We do not know time, brother. Left wheel on G. You get the sense? I don't tell Chester where they go on. No. Me and Chester have a good talk. I make that man know where they go on. Me no into no problem, brother. You get the sense? Apparently, the police they do their job the right way. The police they come and disrespect man. Loan one cock up, pala, pull man a chance man, panana, brother. Me tell that to no, brother. I make no I tell that to no. Yeah, I tell no. Tell that.
What happened yesterday? I understand that yesterday would have been the anniversary of your brother's passing, correct? Correct. What happened at that point?
Well, my brother passed away. So I make what? Why you know? Understand me? My birthday, I think. So we just sit down here, have our limits, and talk about the good times and the good things with my brother. No kind of problem. Understand? We start laugh, we smile. Understand me? Feel good that we get over it. Understand me? The man they just all up to the yard. And they all up to the yard now. Line up, line up, drag man so. And just curry, they not tell we where they curry for, nothing. So when we reach a station now, one of the police there, I look for the next police, I tell her, I put there and shooting. The next police touch her, I tell her, no, we can't put there and shoot him, we can't aim. No shooting no gang. I say the next one tell her, well, aim. I put there and a gang then. You understand me? We don't know gang, brother. We get that out of the head, brother. We don't know gang of freak, man, but we stay home. We got free business, barber shop. We do car washing, we sell clothes, my brother. You get the sense? We not into that, my brother. Everyday routine, that's what we do. You check? Suppress we, brother.
Also detained during the sweep was well-known footballer Floyd Jones, who says he was at the barber shop inside the family yard when he too was taken into custody. According to Jones, the arresting officers insisted that a photograph of himself be taken along with his fingerprints, despite not being charged for a criminal offense.
My yard and about 5 truck haul up and come in the yard and say that what they could conduct. They didn't say they conduct a search. What? Yeah, no, but not after that really they could use that thing, but they know that for my brother's birthday, right? And they said I told them basically that the Curtis code affair was meeting at gang task good, talk, you know? So we comply, everybody got in a station. Can't I say we got a camera in our house, we could show that. When we reach a station now, a different thing the police they deal with, they don't got no charge.
I gone at the barber shop because my barber shop situated in the same yard where the policeman is, you know. I have the summary of the facts right here. Jamal Castillo as the charging officer, he is stating in his summary that about 11:30 on Wednesday, December 6th, brother we did at 17:18. So for him, first thing he done got in for him thing with one date where he want charge we for. Second of all, he states that there is 4 wooden structures surrounded by a zinc fence, but you still not say within that 4 wooden structure there is a business. Now, Mr. Caetano, I had in this business, I had a call from the barber. At 11:30 a.m., I had there for my trim for 11:45 at 11:45. The gang suppression unit, the gang task force unit, then come to the place. All the next gentleman me there in the yard, I me there in the shop. The man then said, step out of the shop because we are doing a search. I comply. After that, Mr. Caetano, me end up the police station. When I end up the police station, they tell me either there for being part of a gang or being a member of a gang. They took me and then they tried to take me through a process where I refuse. Or fingerprinting, or picture taking, and a whole lot of questions that Mr. Caetano me know that.
There was a brazen armed robbery in Spanish Lookout on Wednesday afternoon. Salesman Michael Escalante reported to police upon walking out of Farmers Trading Center in Spanish Lookout that he was accosted by two gunmen armed with shotguns. They demanded that he hand over the keys to his 2020 Wingle pickup truck valued at $50,000. Fearing for his life, he complied and the gunmen sped off in the vehicle, which was later ditched by the robbers. A search of the vehicle has since revealed that an undisclosed amount of cash was stolen, along with an electronic device and a 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 12 rounds of ammunition of the same caliber. After the break, new measures to be implemented for flight arrivals at the PGIA.
The Neha branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. But that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
New guidelines for passenger arrivals at the Philip Golson International Airport are being developed by a committee led by Minister of the Blue Economy and Civil Aviation, Andre Perez. The need for revised standard operating procedures for entry at the PGIA is in anticipation of an increase in arrivals during the first few months of 2021. Notwithstanding the efforts of the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation, as well as the Ministry of Health, under the previous administration to modify the airport in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, Cabinet has approved the formation of a new task force to make the arrival process more efficient. This comes hard on the heels of a travel advisory issued by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in which Belize and 173 other countries have been flagged. On Wednesday, Minister of Tourism Anthony Moller, in admitting that the COVID-19 pandemic has created a rather fluid situation for the travel and leisure sector, also said that the number of flights coming into the country is now between 10 and 15 daily. Stakeholders in tourism, particularly the micro, small and medium enterprises that were hit hardest by COVID-19, will now be able to access financing through a $20 million loan that Atlantic Bank Limited has received from IDB Invest. It is estimated that MSMEs generate over 70% of private sector employment and income in Belize, despite the challenges being faced. The objective of the initiative is to contribute to increase access to finance for MSMEs in Belize by supporting the growth of Atlantic Bank's MSMEs loan portfolio. Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa says that while the laws are in place and cops will help to enforce the laws to prevent the spread of COVID-19, the public must do its part. Musa is calling on the public to use the hotlines to report restricted events. Musa explains that the COVID-19 Police Task Force will be solely responsible to police the regulations.
Then, in fact, we are asking the public to do your part and to call into this hotline 0800 parties or 0800 727 8432. And this is available to both BTL and to smart customers. So we are asking the public to do their part in reporting these illegal parties, because what they are is illegal. And so we have to crack down on these. The COVID task force, we have about 8 officers in each district assigned specifically to deal with COVID, to be a part of the COVID task force and enforcing the regulations. In Belize City, which has the highest population, we have 24 officers in Belize City that are dealing specifically with this task force. So we are very serious. The police department is very serious about enforcing the quarantine regulations, and we're asking the public to likewise be as serious as we are.
One of the other COVID-19 prevention changes that we can expect will be in public transportation. According to Minister Musa, the crackdown on public transportation to cut the spread of COVID-19 will see buses and boats reduce their carrying capacity to 50%. This will allow for less overcrowding and reduce the chances of the transmission of the virus.
One of the proposals that came to Cabinet and that was approved is in relation to exactly that, Marlene. The buses and the boats traveling between the city, San Pedro and Kikaker. We are proposing that it should have a maximum of 50% of the capacity of the vessel or the bus. And so if your bus has 60 seats, you can only have 30 passengers on your bus at any time, and as best as possible, the passengers on those buses have to observe social distancing. So it's a radical shift. It is one I'm sure the bus operators will not be happy with, but we have to come down heavy. It is, in fact, one of the close quarters, one of the everybody on a bus, as you just said, there is overcrowding sometimes, and so we're going to have police officers strategically located on the highway to check these buses regularly to ensure that they are following that 50% rule that will be put in place on Saturday.
Is that going to be tied to price control?
I think that is something that the ministry is tweaking at the moment, and definitely we will have to hear from the Minister of Transport in that regard and come up with the proper pricing when it comes to the bus travels and the boat travels.
When we come back, harvesting vervine will show you one company's effort to promote the healing herb during these COVID times.
In these
Since Monday, Fulltech Systems Limited has been giving away free packets containing vervine and fever grass. The packets are boiled and then you drink it as you would a tea. It is said that the tea helps with some of the symptoms associated with COVID-19. And so today we found residents taking advantage of the offer while supplies last. News 5's Dwayne Moody went to find out more.
It contains about 250 species of annual and perennial herbaceous and semi-woody flowering plants and is found in the wild. But vervain, as it is known, is a slender plant with small, pale lilac flowers borne on leafless spikes. It is used traditionally by herbalists to treat jaundice, kidney stones, headache, depression, anxiety, and insomnia. A search online says that vervain is also considered an astringent, bitter digestive tonic and a diuretic. Most recently, it is being used across the world in the form of a tea to help with symptoms associated to the novel coronavirus. Recovered COVID-19 victim Jenny Bonilla says that a tea made from the herb helped her throughout her recovery.
I took what the hospital recommended, the package that they give you when you go and get tested. But also I used a vervine tea, which was a mixture of the vervine, the yellow ginger, garlic, and honey, and also some cayenne pepper. And that was what I medicated myself with for the time that I was out with COVID, in which I think that it was very soothing to the fact that I had a sore throat as a part of the symptoms of COVID-19, and it was very soothing whenever I would drink it. It helped a lot.
Over the weekend, Full-Tech Systems Limited harvested a bunch of vervain and lemongrass, commonly known as fever grass, and began packaging them off. They are providing it free of cost to the public at their branches on Coney Drive in Belize City and McCaw Street in Belmopan. One package per household as long as the supply lasts.
We decided that we wanted to do something to give back to our community and to people suffering from COVID-19. And so since we had access to both the vervain and or locally known as vervain, as well as the lemongrass, we decided to harvest them and packet them and give them back to people who are in need of it. In reference to the vervain, those grow wild, and I think a lot of people don't realize the magnitude or how helpful it is, you know. And so we reaped them. We actually had access to the lemongrass at Kikiwit, so we also harvested the ones at Kikiwit, the lemongrass at Kikiwit, and then the vervain, as you mentioned, they grow wild, you know. So we did both, and we package them off, and get them prepared for customers.
The contents of the packet are boiled in water, and you drink it as you would a tea. Today, a number of persons stopped in at the Belize City office, having found out about what was going on.
I saw a little commotion here, and I saw some good-looking stuff, medical stuff, so I stopped and I paid attention, and I realized it was Full-Tech giving away fever grass, and I said, wow, I was amazed that was happening. To tell you the truth, I don't really grew up on much of the traditional medical stuff, but I know for sure I just drink Cerasi and never tasted it, so I never look for no other type of thing to drink. But I know many family they tell me about the fever grass during the COVID, and I think it's scarce if I'm not mistaken, because I have family members where they look for it right now to send to the to foreign, to the USA. Yeah.
You don't need to purchase anything in the store. It's actually available for free. We have it at our security booth at both branches in Belize City and in Belmopan. Like I mentioned, it's free. You just need to come and request one at no charge.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The Child Development Foundation launched a campaign that seeks to prevent family violence. The campaign will engage private sector through the use of posters and educational sessions. Executive Director Diana Shaw says that the campaign will help to identify those at risk and help them to access services. Here's more from Shaw at Wednesday's virtual campaign launch.
We are trying to get the non-traditional actors, not just the NGOs who are already involved in this issue, but those who are involved in the business sector at the community level in particular, to see how they can also join the network of persons at the community level who can spread awareness and also who can help to identify and refer women and children to services so that they can receive assistance. So that's essentially what we're doing. We are inviting private sector entities who want to be a part of the campaign to agree to display a poster in their establishment in a prominent place where the public will see it, that will help to bring awareness to domestic violence and child abuse, and then also to nominate somebody from their organization who can participate in virtual sessions that CDF will be holding from time to time to increase awareness and also to ensure that we expand people's understanding of how they can help to identify victims, how they can help to provide sensitive intervention and to know adequately how to refer persons to services. So when they participate in these training sessions, they will then become focal points for their organization to be able to share and spread the information within their organizations, because there may be persons in their organizations who are vulnerable to violence and who need assistance, and they need to know where to refer them, but also to members of the public who come to their establishments, in particularly pharmacies, supermarkets, and businesses that sell food, people that are dealing with the public. If there's somebody who is coming to your establishment and you recognize that this person is in need of assistance, there's a concern that this person may be a victim of domestic violence or that there may be some child abuse situation happening, that you know how to make a referral.
The campaign will start in the Cayo district and expand to the rest of the country. Participating entities will also be included in community education activities once those resume. The Development Finance Corporation is on its way to become a Green Climate Fund accredited entity. It means that the DFC will be able to provide access to funding for climate resilient related activities and investments. But before they become accredited, they must meet certain standards to be able to disperse funding. And so, through the GCF under the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment and the Caribbean Development Bank, the DFC was granted just under $1 million to build its capacity over the next 12 to 14 months. Franklin Manglore of the DFC tells us what it means for DFC to become accredited as a direct access entity of the GCF.
Somewhere around 2015, 2016, we started to experience the impacts of climate change on our loan portfolio. We have heavy investments in agriculture, and so whenever there's an event, a drought, a storm, floods, as we have seen the last couple of weeks, it always results in losses to farmers, which translate into defaults in loan payments. So in 2017, we decided that we were going to, we did a new strategic plan, and one of the main strategies in that plan, outlined in that plan, is that we were going to mainstream climate in our operations. One of the things that we recognize that we need to do is to mobilize finance, concessionary finance, for funding adaptation and mitigation measures in the productive sector. So what has happened since then, after the gap assessment, the Caribbean Development Bank, which is a regional institution that has worked with DFC for very many years as our primary funding source, they agreed to assist us with addressing the gaps that were identified from the GCF gap assessment. And so we got together with GCF and we prepared a funding proposal. And that proposal was recently approved in the first week, I think, of December. So coming out of that, we will now get the technical assistance funding to do consultancies, regional and even national consultancies, that will help us plug in those gaps. Once we address those gaps, the process to accreditation of the GCF will now be accelerated. We will finalize our application, and then we will now be able to go directly to the GCF for funding for projects up to $40 million US. Small for GCF, but large for a country like Belize. So in terms of the DFC, it's going to create an additional non-traditional source of funding for the productive sector. And in terms of the country of Belize, it is going to attract what we call foreign capital for financing investments in the country, but not just investments, but climate smart investments.
Currently, there are only 2 accredited GCF entities in Belize, the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center and the Protected Areas for Conservation Trust. Coming up after the break, Healthy Living looks at Christmas and COVID-19.
In these
2020 has been anything but traditional, so it's safe to say that we must reconsider all our usual Christmas traditions as we continue battling the pandemic. So with 1 week to go before Christmas, 'tis the season for tough choices and safety planning. In tonight's Healthy Living, we outline some tips to make your Christmas safer. It's how we close the year and the last tradition that you want to make compromises on. But with the spike in COVID cases countrywide, it's time to consider your family's safety plan for Christmas.
It's hard, but we have to do it. I think key here, Marlene, is each person is responsible. It's our responsibility.
Emir Castañeda is a health educator for the Ministry of Health and Wellness. He advises families to take time now to discuss all the plans on celebrating safely this holiday season. The first step is recognizing the risks within your household or safety bubble.
In your household, you have a family members, maybe one or two, or three of you living in a household, that's your safe bubble. But we have to work. We have to go out and shop at some point in time. And we are asking that if somebody works from that household, if one member works, that person will go to work. And when he comes back, he has to, I would say in these simple terms, you have to clean yourself before you enter back into your bubble.
It is not unlikely that families from different households will come together at some point. The first safety tip, in this case, is to keep all gatherings outdoors.
Have it outside of it, in your backyard. Take out your table, put it outside. We want ventilation. When you are indoors, yes, there is circulation, but you are speaking, you're letting out droplets. We all know that. And it just stays within that particular room, that particular area. And if we are indoors, we tend to be closer. If we are outside, it's breezy, we have a lot of breeze, and if any droplets will be let out, then the droplet will just be carried away by the breeze. And if we're outside, we tend to be more spacious.
The second tip is one we hear all the time. Use your mask, even indoors. You might be with family, but you're not from the same household. It's best to mask up. As for the family tradition of sitting at the table for a meal, well, Castañeda says even with an outdoor setting, we must still social distance.
Let's not all of us sit down on one table all together, but maybe keep our physical distance and we eat by turns. I mean, we have to be cautious. I mean, let's not be afraid to say these things when we are in gatherings. I mean, sometimes we say, I feel like I don't want to say these things because I don't know what they will say, but it's better to be cautious.
Also, don't forget to explain to the children in the family about no contact, especially with high-risk family members.
The moment you decide to come out of your bubble of your household, you're at risk. Okay, you're at risk. So if you decide that you will visit other family members, you're at risk. That's a don't deal there. You're at risk, and you have to take all the precautions. And the moment you're going over to an next family member, you have to tell your kids no kissing, no hugging, and this applies to all of us.
There is less risk involved for gift giving, but you can separate the gifts before Christmas. Leave them under the tree a day or a few days ahead to minimize the direct contact of exchanging from person to person. Even with all the safety considerations, the safest family meetup would be a virtual one.
If we need to contact our other family members from other households, we can use video chats, we can use, we can dance and we connect via video and we dance amongst each other. But key here is stay home.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at News 5 Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.